Hello, and welcome to the Empowerography Podcast. This is a platform created for women's voices to be heard and a place to share their stories, journeys, and successes with the world for the purpose of helping other women who might be on similar journeys. We are empowering women one episode at a time. I'm your host, Brad Walsh, so kick back, grab one of your favorite beverages, and enjoy the stories. If you're looking for jewelry that makes an impact on your self-care routine and your style, Empowerography would love to offer you a discount code to one of our exclusive partners, Quartz and Canary Jewelry and Wellness Company. Please use code EMPOWER15 to receive 15% off upon checkout at www.quartzandcanary.com. Quartz and Canary is truly the place where spirituality meets style. Hello there, Brad Walsh here, your host of the Empowerography Podcast. Today, my guest is Sequoia Satori. She is a sacred sexuality coach and the co-founder of TribaLights. How are you doing today, Sequoia?
I'm doing well. Thank you, Brad. How are you?
I'm doing very well. Thank you so much for taking the time to be here today and share a bit about your story and your journey with us here today. I appreciate you and I appreciate you taking the time to be here.
Oh, it's my absolute pleasure. I'm really looking forward to chatting.
Well, let's jump right in then. So, Sequoia, you're a certified Kundalini Yoga teacher, an active meditation facilitator, a sacred sexuality coach, and the co-founder of TribaLights. What is the difference between Kundalini Yoga and your regular run-of-the-mill yoga?
Yeah, so yoga, this is a common misunderstanding. A lot of people think yoga is just the physical poses, but actually that's just one limb of 8 different limbs that consist of yoga. So the physical poses are asanas, and where hatha yoga or vinyasa might focus more on these asanas, Kundalini focuses more on the awakening of your own inner awareness and consciousness. And so, yeah, all different forms of yoga actually stem from tantric principles. Oh. And the idea of all these different practices is to really help you live your fullest life.
Okay. So is there poses involved in Kundalini as well, but it's just more about the awakening of the mind?
Yeah. So Kundalini will focus, there are poses, but there's also mantras, there's different breath work. Yeah, there's different chants as well. Okay. And the idea basically, so Kundalini energy is the visualization that's often used is like this dormant snake coiled at the base of the spine. Okay. And the idea is through these different breathing techniques, poses, chants, basically that you're like activating this dormant snake energy so that it can rise up your middle channel, your Sushumna channel, rise up through the different chakras and actually help you experience awakening. So there's a story in Hinduism that basically explains where Kundalini energy comes from. Okay. And it's the story of Shiva and Shakti. So Shiva being the divine masculine energy and Shakti being the divine feminine energy. And the story goes that Shiva, who is sort of the source of power and consciousness, was in deep meditation for thousands of years. And basically Shakti was, wanting to get his attention and was dancing for him. And eventually he noticed her. And once he did, they came together in harmonious union. And her divine energy was his ability to create. Together, they were able to create all of life. And so it was almost like a creation story in Hinduism. So where these two forces joined and yeah, that's so that's what the Kundalini energy is. It's bringing the one energy up and so that your own consciousness can expand and become aware.
Well, thank you for clarifying that.
Thanks for it's a great story.
Why did you decide to become certified as a Kundalini yoga teacher as opposed to regular yoga? And what inspired you to become a yoga teacher?
So my journey, I'm sure we'll answer this later on, but I initially got into yoga for the physical benefits. So just as a form of exercise. And then I'm a bit of someone who is on like constantly seeking, and I enjoy diving deeper into things and getting to the root of things. And I realized that there was this incredible power of yoga, but especially during the points of meditation and, at the end, Shavasana, where you really just feel very blissed out after having done all these different exercises. And, I started practicing breath work and started practicing other active meditations, and had a moment of my own Kundalini awakening where I just experienced this, intense rush of energy. And once I found out actually what that was, that it was a Kundalini awakening, then I became really intrigued and wanting to learn more about that. At the same time, my interest in Tantra developed, and I realized that, there is a link between these two. And I decided to really learn the essence and elements of Kundalini energy and Kundalini Yoga specifically as a path for my own spiritual journey. Okay. I don't necessarily teach Kundalini Yoga, but I use it in my teachings with sexuality.
Okay. So what is an active meditation facilitator?
So active meditation, the term itself became popularized with this semi-famous guru named Osho. You might have seen, there was a little documentary about him, docuseries on Netflix called Wild Wild Country. Unfortunately, it was focused on a lot of the scandals around this commune that he had created in Oregon back in the late 70s. But his teachings and principles were actually quite unique, in the sense that a lot of people, the way they view meditation, it's, you need to just come and sit down in stillness and, just clear your mind and, not have any thoughts. And you just need to meditate that way. And it's almost like you start almost getting into a battle with your mind, because every time a thought comes up, you're like resisting it and you don't want to think and you're trying to be present and it's just not working. And so, but I think a lot of people experience this. And so active meditation, and specifically the different meditations that Osho taught, were practices where you would move all the energy from the body out first. So especially in today's day where we have so much technology, so much stress, so many other things on our minds, it's very difficult for people to just come into that stillness. Yeah. So doing things like, like shaking, for example, if you just put on some sort of trance or sort of strong drumming music, and just like allow your body to shake for a while, and then allow yourself slowly to come into stillness, and then slowly from there come into meditation, you'll find yourself in a much more relaxed state, basically by allowing the body to move and release any kind of tension or anxiety or other energy that might be stored up. And so actually the yoga asanas, the practice of these different postures, initially were to prepare the body for meditation, for sitting in meditation. So it's, so basically active meditation is allowing yourself to come into that still meditation, but really creating different exercises and different movements that will get you
to prepare you
in get you in a meditative state much easier and more quickly. Okay.
Now, I didn't even know this was a thing, but what is sacred sexuality coaching? And what do you coach people on? Like, what is it?
Yeah. So sacred sexuality, well, you could say that it's tantra, except tantra is a very misunderstood word. A lot of people think that it is just about different crazy positions in sex and that, it's all about making love for many hours or days on end. And, that's really the way Tantra has been exported in the West. Traditionally, though, Tantra was kind of like an umbrella path. It's a path of viewing every part of life as divine. So you could be practicing Tantra while eating a really nice meal. You could be practicing it while going for a walk in nature and just really absorbing all the sights and sounds and smell and being fully present in the moment. Technically, that is also Tantra. Okay. Tantra's evolved over time there's two paths. Well, there was a left-hand path and a right-hand path. Okay. The right-hand path was a little more conservative. So the practice of Tantra on the right-hand path was focused more on the path of devotion, mantras, and they kind of excluded sex. Left-hand path included sex as a divine channel, as a technique for meditation as well, as a pathway to also reaching more enlightened states. Today, this left-hand path has now been also subdivided into white Tantra and red Tantra, where red Tantra is really fully immersing oneself in that sexual energy. And white tantra is doing other practices like Kundalini Yoga, where the sexual energy isn't removed, but it's welcome in the space. And so sacred sexuality coaching, the reason I use that term is because it's really focused. So you could say red tantra, except there's almost too much of a focus on sex. It's like only sex. Sacred sexuality is more about incorporating the divine into your sexual experience and really viewing it as a fundamental part of life, and, working through the different shame and trauma and stigma that a lot of people inherently have a lot of people just inherently have, through our conditioning, through the way, even children are spoken to. A lot of kids will touch their bodies, and they might touch their genital areas, and adults or parents will say, oh no, you can't do that. You can't do that in public, or, this is a place of shame, and you can only do that in private. And so from a young age, we start internalizing these messages that sex is something to be kept hidden. And basically, sacred sexuality coaching is really helping people uncover what kind of beliefs they have, what kind of triggers they might have, and really help to reframe all of that, and just be more present and intentional with their experiences.
Interesting. Why do you think that Tantra has been twisted here in the West then into such a thing around sexuality? Because when I first heard that word years ago, that's exactly what you described is what I associated with it, that it's being able to have sex for hours on end and this and this and that. Why do you think that this has happened? Why has the Western world twisted it so much into this meaning behind it, as opposed to what the true meaning is, do you think?
Yeah, absolutely. I feel like there would be a few different reasons. One is that, sex sells, and, that's kind of on a cover of a magazine, if you can tell someone, oh, hey, have sex for days and, using Tantra, like that's going to attract more attention. Another reason I would think is because of the way we've evolved in the Western world, or I should say not all of the West, but maybe North America more specifically, to have kind of a Puritan mindset around sex and sexuality. Right. And so because it has been stigmatized, and because Tantra is a path that, especially, red Tantra, because it does accept all of life, whereas like most religions will tell you, you have to abstain from different worldly pleasures in order to reach enlightenment. I think that's why it kind of got this bad reputation. And then also because leading a tantric path does require a level of awareness and intentionality and presence. There's also, even if you are coming together with another person, as mentioned, you can practice it alone, you can practice it doing all kinds of different activities, or not doing any activity. Right. But when coming with another person, you're bringing this different energy of reverence and respect. You're honoring them as a divine creation, and it's two sacred beings coming together, as opposed to something that's just like, a stress relief or
pure animalistic.
Exactly.
So how long have you been doing this, and how did you discover there was a need for it?
I have been, my initial journey with it would have begun about 8 years ago, but actually teaching and practicing was about 5 years ago. And so I discovered there was a need from it also just because of my own upbringing and experiences, with sex, basically.
Right.
I was raised in a Catholic household and a Catholic school.
That says it all.
Right there.
Yeah.
But in the Catholic faith and many religions, women are put into two categories, either, the virgin or the whore. Yeah. And sexual education as well was purely based on anatomy. This is, here's an ovary, there's a fallopian tube, and this is what's going to happen. And basically abstinence is the only thing you need to know. Exactly. And so there was no, but there was no empowering conversations that were being had, especially for women, you know?
Yeah.
So what I found, my very first boyfriend, we were at the age of 14, you know, and I think a lot of teenage boys, especially today with the internet, a lot of teenage boys are learning about sex from porn.
Yeah.
And, you know, teen girls, maybe they're picking up a Cosmopolitan magazine, which is also really focused on male pleasure.
Right.
And so there isn't a discussion about, you know, what feels good in your body. What does consent look like? What does a full yes look like? And also learning what brings you pleasure, because at the end of the day, you know, in order to really experience full pleasure with someone else, you know, you need to be able to self-source your pleasure.
Absolutely.
Exactly. You need to know what makes you tick. And you also need to know what feels good, what doesn't.
Yeah.
And I found myself in too many situations where I just wasn't equipped with the proper tools to really clarify my boundaries, to know what I wanted. I was also, you know, confused. You know, this is a first boyfriend. Oh, okay. You know, I want him to like me. Oh, okay. I'm going to step over, you know, what feels comfortable just because, you know, I don't even know, like, and, you know, they don't even teach any practices of safe sex in Catholic schools. So
because you're not supposed to have sex before you're married, right?
Exactly.
That's only for procreation.
Exactly. So you leave, you know, entire generations of entire groups of kids completely unprepared for,
to figure it out on their own. Here you go, figure it out.
Exactly.
We're not teaching you.
Exactly. And not even that we're not teaching the basics, but also we're not teaching how to honor and value ourselves and each other. So,
which is a huge part of it.
Exactly.
Now, I know through previous conversation with you that your journey started off very traditionally in terms of doing the job that everyone thinks you should have, achieving success through that job. You were a stockbroker in Paris, France. So money in that industry, I'm just, because I didn't come from that industry, but I'm going to assume here, money equals material equals success. So how long did you work in that world?
Yeah, it's very interesting. When I was 16, I think I picked up a copy of the 7 Habits of Highly Effective Teens. And, you know, I was working on all my goals and I had my vision board, and the way that I visualized my life, my future life, was all completely material focused. You know, there was a corner office, there was designer outfits and clothes and, you know, many homes with pools, and you know, it was all about status and fame and success, or that's how I define success. And I got this job in France at a stockbroker. Granted, I was in the marketing department, so you know, slightly less intense than the traders or the salespeople. But it just, something felt empty. And, you know, I was spending all this time and energy basically just making a bunch of wealthy, mostly men, more wealthy. And, I had the opportunity to go to India with a friend, got to discover the country and or at least a small part of it, and just really, you know, was really intrigued by the way of life there. And so I went back on a second visit on my own to an ashram in the south. And it was in that ashram during the daily meditations, I had this sudden moment of, well, that's essentially when I would have had my Kundalini awakening experience, this sudden rush of energy, this realization of just the full present moment and like full realization that the way I had been defining myself was, I was not my body. I was not my job. Like all of a sudden I wasn't identifying with this 3D world anymore. And so I came back to France and that disconnect just started increasing more and more over time. My personal life and my sort of outer life and my inner life were more and more in conflict.
Yeah.
And so that's that was basically the start of it. And then there was a moment that really kind of catalyzed everything. Yeah. And it was from that moment onwards that I just took a radical shift in life.
Wow. Now, I come from a corporate background, and I've seen, and even now still, that mindset and the behavior of the old boys club mentality, and that women should only be at a certain level and not equal pay for women doing the same job as their male counterparts, or not enough women in C-suite level positions in these corporations. And of course, it's a horrible, horrible occurrence and mindset, and it's been going on for years and years, but we don't live in the 40s anymore. Like it's time to shift that mindset and that way of thinking. And yeah, we're starting to see a little bit of a shift. I think more women like yourself are waking up or having awakenings, or just realizing, you know what, fuck this. I'm not doing this. This isn't who I am. I'm not waiting around to get to that position. I'm going to fucking create my own world. I'll become my own CEO. I've had enough of this bullshit of being kept down by men and just jumping up and taking control of their lives. Can you speak to some of the adversity that you faced in your career in that world and how you dealt with it?
Yeah, absolutely. The first memory that comes to mind is my second week on the job at the stockbroker, where I was walking through the trading floor. And as I was walking past, because I had to go talk to a salesperson, all the traders started barking at me. And barking like dogs. Oh. And I'm 21-year-old fresh-faced Canadian in France, just it felt like Wolf of Wall Street, very, very, very backwards, especially in terms of gender equality, especially in the workforce. And this kind of behavior, that was not uncommon. Yeah. I had other colleagues as well, other female colleagues who, they might have someone, put a hand on them for a little too long, or kind of like a little too low on the back, or, wow. There was a guy that would regularly flip women's skirts in the hallways. Yeah, no, I'm not even joking. And this is mid 2000s, 2008, shit. 2009. Yeah, it was pretty bad. I mean, I think, hopefully it's gotten a little better now, but yeah, it was quite Wolf of Wall Street at the time. And I remember I went to talk to HR, and they just said, you're being too American.
Are you fucking kidding me?
No. So on that level, that kind of shut me down in that realm quite early in that workplace. But it also sparked this intense desire to, I realized just how unjust and unfair this was. And I was really angry. And so I that propelled me to educate myself more on different issues around gender equality and feminism and all of this. Yeah. I like what you said, there was definitely a glass ceiling for a lot of the women, especially in that industry. I mean, already it was a very male dominated world.
For sure.
But there's one thing I think that needs to change is that we women especially, we're trying to, and this came with the feminist movement. It was like, we wanted the same rights as men, but therefore in order to have that, we had to start essentially behaving the same way as men. So in a very linear way, with goals, with objectives, with, kind of a dog eat dog cutthroat competition in order to reach levels of success. But the thing is, of course, with, being another gender, a woman who was too ambitious or too vocal, then she would be labeled all these different names. And this, exactly. Or she's, So that isn't quite working out for us. There is a beautiful trend right now where leaders are seeing that, collaboration is actually really great for the bottom line, and having a strong team culture and having work environments that are flatter and, more team based. So we're seeing evidence that is actually more profitable for businesses, and attributes like collaboration are really very much a feminine energy. So naturally, I think there is a bit of this movement towards valuing what a woman or the feminine energy that could be brought into the workplace. But essentially, one thing that I really advocate, especially for women, is to work with their natural flows and cycles. So a woman's menstruation cycle, it has 4 distinct phases. So, and they can almost be seen like the different seasons in the year. So menstruation itself would be like winter. It's a time to, be really quiet and go inward. Then ovulation, for example, is like summer. That's actually a really great time to pitch an idea, to get a photo shoot done, to launch a new campaign. And so whereas menstruation would be the time to really like allow creativity and inspiration to come through, you know, focus on do the business plans and that kind of stuff, and really visualizing. So actually, you know, women need to work in different ways than men, and we need to learn as a society as a whole to value both of those. So not to expect women to play a game that has essentially been created by men for men, but to create more understanding and more appreciation for what all genders, all energies can bring into the workplace.
Yeah.
Or any space, really.
Yeah, exactly. Not just workplace, for sure. How did overcoming the adversity fuel your drive and your passion for the work you do now?
Yeah. So as mentioned, just experiencing that first little bit of harassment in the workplace really got me angry enough to want to take action and to want to educate myself and to want to understand, you know, because growing up in Canada, I didn't notice it as much. I didn't notice as much inequality. Of course, you know, maybe it would have been different in the workplace later on, but at least, you know, in my early years, I didn't notice it as much.
Yeah.
So experiencing that, really helped fuel that initial almost stereotypical angry feminist energy. But then through my journey, I've been able to actually transform and transcend that energy into more of an empowered feminine energy where, you know, instead of saying, okay, well, it's all the patriarchy's fault. And, you know, I want, you know, these are my demands. Really just being able to say, well, actually, you know what, I'm operating differently, and what I have to contribute is equally as important and equally as beautiful. And I can be in my power and be in my feminine without necessarily having to, you know, play the same game. Yeah, exactly.
Now, you're now on a very different journey, which you have spoke about, and you've transformed your own personal trauma and struggles into empowerment. Can you speak to us a bit about your own personal trauma that you've dealt with and that led you now onto your current path?
Yeah, it was when I was 27. So it was about 6-7 years into my career at this stockbroker. As mentioned, you know, there was an increasing divide between my inner world and my outer world. And, you know, I was kind of staying in that world just because it was comfortable and I didn't really know what to do next. But yeah, it was October of that year, and I went to London for a friend's birthday. And basically, in a nutshell, I experienced rape at that party. And initially, I didn't quite process what had happened to me. I was unable to fully articulate or fully understand that that's what it was. And my initial response was, well, I told two of the girls that were at the party, and one of them just said, oh, well, you know, these things happen.
Oh my God.
Best to let it go. Right. Because she was a very good friend of the guy who.
Of course.
So, yeah. So I guess, and she and I didn't know each other so well. So, you know, she was going to take his side. I don't know. It can be very complicated, but essentially, I kind of wrote it off because they say, you know, when you experience a traumatic event, the first person you tell, whatever their response is really going to have a huge impact on how you view the experience. So she said, oh, you know, just let it go. So I was like, okay, I'll just let it go. And so I tried to let it go. But what I found was that increasingly I was becoming more and more self-destructive. You know, I was just started taking a lot of different drugs and was just not really loving my body anymore. And just feeling a lot of shame and also eating a lot more than I needed to be healthy. And yeah, just really let myself kind of spiral out until I reached this really, really low point. And then finally I just decided, okay, you know what, that's it. I quit the job and began essentially my deep inward journey and introspection. And so through a different series of events, I ended up moving to Berlin, and that's where I discovered the Osho meditations and Osho as a teacher. So discovered active meditation. I also ended up going to, Burning Man for the first time. Right. And, you wouldn't expect it for a festival like that, but actually it was incredibly transformational for me, very transformative, because this is a bit of a side note, but because it is a space where so many different things are available and very accessible, and there's no real barrier. You can actually go and try a whole bunch of different things that you wouldn't normally try. So I discovered things like ecstatic dance. I did a breathwork journey, and I started discovering all these practices that I hadn't known about before. And one of them was also a women's circle. And in that circle, we ended up talking about, I think it was about, our bodies or whatever. And it was in that moment I shared the experience that I had at this party, at this event. And basically the feedback that I got there was like, you've been raped, like, and it was a huge moment of realization for me. And basically helped begin my path of healing.
Incredible. You wouldn't expect that at Burning Man. When you think
no, I know.
Something like that transformative. I mean, I understand transformation will take place there, but something like that you just wouldn't expect. So how have these experiences helped shape the Sequoia you are today, do you think?
Well, I'd say they've helped me become a lot more clear and passionate about what I believe in and what I hold true, as well as they've helped me prioritize what is actually important in life. So, even though I had the, material success and I had, a prestigious job in a nice neighborhood, and I, was going to many beautiful places, and I, I had all those things, I was able to see just how empty that world could be. And even though today, I don't have as many material things, and I'm spending my time very differently, I'm also feeling so much more content and fulfilled and joyful in my life because I'm being of service to other people, and I'm seeing the transformation that they are experiencing, and these light bulb moments, because it's like a series of small awakenings. I think, the path to enlightenment or to consciousness, to awakening. I believe that it's many small awakenings in the course of one's life, and it could just be as simple as something someone said, or just a shavasana at the end of a yoga class, or just a sudden realization when you're out in nature that wow, that there is no separation, and it's all divine, and the mosquito is just as divine and beautiful as the dolphin, and
for sure. So you being, I'm assuming, and I think I'm fairly correct here, you're a very big advocate of self-love and body positivity, body acceptance, and women's empowerment. Can you speak a bit about what those things mean to you on a personal level?
Yeah. So self-love and body positivity, I think it's, on a personal level, for me, it's about really being in harmony with my body and not being in conflict. Like when I think of all the years, I spent a good number of years being bulimic, and that was because, I was at war with my body. I was trying to fit into some kind of mold that, that was basically photoshopped anyways.
Yeah, exactly.
So it was through this entire path, especially through even just yoga, really coming into more harmony and alignment with my body, and just starting to eat foods that are actually nourishing, and really bringing a lot of awareness and intention around what I eat. And I think for everyone, women especially, learning to really, really just love what's there, and to love and accept this vessel as it is, because it is so precious, and we only get to, it's so cliche, but we only get to experience this life for a short time. So why would we be at conflict with ourselves and, speaking negatively to ourselves, or just feeling badly because, we're maybe eating a bag of chips or a tub of ice cream because we're sad,
yeah,
and then feeling bad about it, and then perpetuating this really bad cycle. Like, being able to express our emotions in happy or in healthy ways, so that, we're eating to fuel the body. It's like, if you see your body as a car, like a really nice, Lamborghini or something, you want to give it the premium fuel. You don't want to be putting diesel in a Lamborghini. So
that's right.
So that's a big part of it. Yeah, that's a big part of it. But then also, just changing the relationship, like understanding that, that little area of belly fat under the belly button that most people have. But women especially will tend to be kind of at battle with this lower belly and really wanting to, starve themselves or exercise like crazy just to get rid of that little bit of fat. But actually, our wombs are behind there.
Yeah.
That's, we create life from that space. So why would we be at battle with it? Like, it's, we need a little bit of softness to protect our organs and to protect our wombs. So
for sure.
Yeah. Just reframing things is really important.
A friend of mine says, treat your body like a temple, not a trash can.
Exactly. So good.
Speaking of empowerment, what does that word mean to you? So
empowerment to me is, I'm going to choose my words very intentionally here. It's, it's more than just the things I mentioned before, status or title or money or, it's about really being in alignment. I think that is actually the key word here, is alignment, where on all levels, like your deep self, your body, your mind, your life's work, everything is in this very harmonious direction. And from that place of alignment, I think that's where you can find the most empowerment, because you're not acting out of trigger or, out of desire to meet some needs of the ego. You're just so in alignment and so intentional, and you're in your body fully, and you allow yourself to fully be present in this world, and to such a degree that everything is in a single direction, and that's where you can really feel that space of empowerment, where you feel just so good on every level that you find your own inner power.
I love it. Now, you've said that it is now your mission or your purpose to help others achieve that same transformation that you did and inspire others to find their own unique expression in the world. Why have you decided to take this on and make it your own personal mission?
That's something that I wish I had when I was younger. I wish I had a mentor or a teacher come into my life to help me transcend and move through all these different experiences. At the same time, if I hadn't experienced all the things that I had experienced, I wouldn't be where I am today, and I wouldn't be in this position of being able to help others. So I really feel, and I'm sure a lot of people feel this way, but all of the different trials and traumas and triggers that I've experienced are part of my life's purpose, and that it was my purpose to experience these things so that I could, come out on the other side and help others, help ease their journey and their transition into a path of more enlightenment and awakening.
Arrive at where you are today. Yeah, they all are part and parcel of shaping who you are as an individual, as a person.
Absolutely. Yeah.
What do you think your unique skill set or superpower is that's helped you become successful?
Oh, that's a really good question. One thing that I really value in myself is groundedness. So even in this journey, because a lot of people, when they start experiencing more spiritual awareness, or they just start, maybe they've taken some psychedelics and they realize all is one, and or maybe they even just read The Secret and the Law of Attraction, and really think like, oh, if I just visualize, it will come. And while that can all be partially true, all of it still needs to be grounded back into the 3D world. So you can't be too far in the 5D experience of manifesting and visualizing and belief in oneness. Like, you also still have to be able to ground it in and bring it into like very tangible action steps. So yes, you can experience moments of transcendence and moments of awakening, and you can feel, extreme joy and liberation and all these beautiful, extreme pleasure, all these beautiful sensations, but still also staying grounded and staying present and, still treating your body well, still treating your friends and your family and everyone well, and still showing love and compassion for everyone wherever they're at. So yeah, I'd say groundedness is my, it's my superpower.
So speaking of success, how do you define success now? I mean, I'm sure your definition of success has changed since leaving the world behind of the stock brokerage and whatnot. So what does that word mean to you now?
That's a beautiful question. Today, success is more about impact for me. So are my actions and are my words having a positive impact on those around me? If I'm because like I mentioned, I was in the marketing department of the stockbroker. Sure. Okay. I could have created a really great brochure or email campaign or, website that maybe generated a lot of revenue, but did it leave a positive impact on all those around me? Not necessarily, it's a lot of trees printed and a lot of people that might have lost money and,
Yeah.
So today it's more about like what, so my partner and I, we've started this nonprofit, we're really focused on having a positive impact on people, on the planet, on, everything that we come in contact with. So yeah, for me, success is about positive impact. And yeah.
What would you say is the most important thing you've learned in your life? And what was your life like before learning it? And what was your life like after learning it?
Ooh. I'd say the most important thing is and this is still a very, very important message, is to accept the totality of everything. So to not only get caught up in one desire or one mindset, because a lot of people are, will have this idea of, good vibes only, or we can only think positive thoughts, or, we can only focus on the good, or some people might be the opposite end, they only focus on the negative. And, so for me, one of the key life lessons is really about accepting that everything has two sides, and just as important as, the moon is just as important as the sun, the night as important as the day, and really finding that balance in perspective in everything. And, in the past, I might have seen anger, for example, as a negative, undesirable emotion. And so I just would try not to feel angry. But today, if I feel anger, I'd say, I'll tell my partner, for example, like, hey, I'm feeling angry. I'm going to go beat up a pillow for a second.
Yeah.
And I'll just, and just move through it. And then I can come back into presence and into balance. So yeah, really just finding that acceptance of all.
What would you say is one of the best pieces of advice you've ever received?
Best piece of advice I ever received? That's a good question. There's that expression, tomorrow's another day.
Yeah.
And my interpretation of that is, tomorrow's another opportunity. It's another chance, so wherever you are today, it's perfect. It's okay. And it's exactly as it should be. And tomorrow's another opportunity to be just that much better and that much more loving and that much more present.
Okay. We're going to jump into a little rapid fire section. So the next group of questions will just be 1, 2, 3 word answer type thing. Okay.
Okay, go.
How would you describe yourself in one word?
Passionate.
If you could teach the world one thing, what would it be?
Self-love.
What's the first thing you notice about a person?
Their smile.
What's the first thing you think when I say the word future?
Presence.
What's one thing you want but cannot buy with money?
World peace.
If you could change one thing about the world, what would you change?
Awareness. In brackets, the treatment of Mother Earth. But yeah.
Okay. What's your favorite stress-reducing activity?
Probably self-pleasure.
Okay. Aside from necessities, what's one thing you could not go without?
One thing I cannot go without: coconut ice cream.
That concludes our rapid fire section. Back to our regularly scheduled program. What is the best version of you if you close your eyes and imagine it?
The best version of me, she's very present, loving, and fully embodied.
Beautiful. If you could sit down and have a 1-hour conversation with anyone in the world, alive or dead, who would it be and why?
I'd probably say Simone de Beauvoir. She wrote a very important text called The Second Sex, about the injustices she experienced as a woman. So I'd love to sit down with her and get her viewpoints and opinions.
Who in your life has had the biggest impact on you and why?
Oh, definitely my mom, just because she was and is still today a very independent and strong woman, and really taught me the value of taking care of myself.
I love it. If you could set up a billboard anywhere, where would you put it and what would it say?
It would be on somewhere that a lot of people see. And it would say, "You are loved."
What is one of your favorite quotes?
That would be one from Osho. He says, "It is through the body that you reach the divine." So really allowing the body to be and fully experience the physical world instead of trying to deny or ignore it.
If you could step into my shoes, what would you have asked yourself that I didn't ask you?
I think you did a pretty good job. Yeah, you did a great job, actually. Maybe how people can get in touch.
Okay, how can people get in touch with you?
There you go. So yeah, people can find me on Instagram at Sequoia_Satori, as well as on Facebook, the same name on my website. Yeah, that's essentially it. Sequoia Satori.
If you could go back and give your younger self one piece of advice, what would that piece of advice be?
Oof, that would be it would be advice, but it would also be a practice of learning to feel into my body before making a decision or taking action. So yeah, it would be a practice, basically.
Yeah. Lastly, if you were to deliver your last 30-second speech to the world, what would that last 30 seconds sound like?
It would sound like the following. What would it sound like? I would tell whoever was listening that there's so much beauty around them, and that all they need to do is just take a moment to be present with that beauty, to go into nature and to really question what it is they want to be remembered for. Yeah, ask themselves what they want to be remembered for.
Sequoia, thank you so much for taking the time to be here today and share your story and your journey with me and take me on this journey with you. It's been an incredibly inspiring and interesting conversation, and I've thoroughly enjoyed it. Thank you so much for taking the time to be here and be part of the Empowerography community. And I'm very proud and honored and happy to have you as a member of the Empowerography community.
Oh, thank you so much, Brad. This is a lot of fun. Thank you for inviting me.
Once again, my name is Brad Welsh, host of your Empowerography Podcast. Today, my guest has been Sequoia Satori. She is a sacred sexuality coach and the co-founder of TribaLights. Thank you so much, Sequoia. I hope you have an amazing rest of the day and a wonderful weekend.
You too. Thanks, Brad.
Thank you very much for listening to this podcast. If you haven't yet, please be sure to subscribe, rate, review, and share with all your friends. You can find me at visuphoria.ca and follow me on Instagram at Empowerography Podcast and on Facebook at Empowerography. Please join me next time for another inspirational story from yet another amazing woman.